San Francisco, the headquarters of the global town square. Look at this image. Really look at it. On the surface, it's a joke. A dad joke brought to life by the richest man on earth. Let that sink in. The entourage laughs. The cameras flash. But strip away the meme potential. And look at the eyes. There is a manic energy there. A desperate need for the applause to drown out the silence. This isn't a victory lap. It is the beginning of a public unraveling. This is the dissonance that breaks your brain. On one hand, you have the visionary who forced the automotive industry to its knees and made space travel dreamable again. A man who looked at the impossible physics of landing a skyscraper-sized rocket on a drone ship in the middle of the ocean, and just did it. On the other, you have a petty internet troll who spends his nights arguing with journalists, firing engineers on a whim, and burning $44 billion to turn a global communication platform into his personal diary. How does the same neural architecture house both the savior and the saboteur? This is the paradox of Elon Musk. He professes a deep, almost religious love for humanity with a capital H, the species, the abstract concept, the multi-planetary future. He wants to save us from extinction. He wants to give us the stars. But when it comes to humans, the individual, breathing, flawed people standing right in front of him, he seems incapable of connection. To him, people aren't souls. They are inputs. They are variables in an equation. And if the variable causes friction, you delete it. We love the myth of the great man. We want to believe that genius is a clean, vertical line to success. We want Tony Stark. We want Iron Man. But we forget that Tony Stark was a fictional character written to have a redemption arc. Reality doesn't offer edits. To build the future, Musk has dismantled the present. He sleeps on factory floors not just because he's dedicated, but because he cannot stop running. He pushes his employees to the breaking point because he is already broken. Psychologists call this the dark triad. It is a lethal cocktail of personality traits. Narcissism, the grandiose need for admiration. Psychopathy, the lack of empathy and erratic impulsivity. Machiavellianism, the cold, calculating manipulation of others for personal gain. In most people, these traits are toxic. They ruin marriages. They destroy friendships. They lead to prison. But in the world of hypercapitalism, in the cutthroat arena of Silicon Valley, these traits aren't bugs. They are features. They are superpowers. History suggests a terrifying trade-off. To achieve the impossible, you might have to sacrifice your humanity. To lead the herd, you must separate yourself from it entirely. Elon Musk isn't just a CEO. He is a case study in what happens when the dark triad is given unlimited resources and zero accountability. He constructed an empire on the back of his own pathology. But empires built on trauma have deep cracks in the foundation. To understand why he is willing to burn Twitter to the ground, why he gambles with billion-dollar companies like they are poker chips, and why he can never, ever be satisfied. We have to go back. We have to go back to a house in Pretoria. We have to talk about the shadow that still stands in the corner of every room Elon enters. A shadow that taught him a brutal lesson. Love is not given. Love is performance. The rockets are trying to escape gravity. Elon is trying to escape something much stronger. And it's catching up. To understand the machine, we must first understand the factory that built it. And that factory was a place of violence. The backdrop is apartheid, a society structured on brutality, segregation, and a pervasive, simmering rage. It was a time and place where empathy was a weakness, and dominance was the only currency that mattered. In this environment, we find a boy, small for his age, introverted, socially awkward, a walking target. School wasn't a place of learning for Elon Musk. It was a hunting ground. There is a specific incident that has been told many times, but we need to revisit it. Not for the gore, but for the psychological imprint it left. Elon is sitting at the top of a concrete staircase. A group of bullies approaches. They don't just want to tease him. They want to erase him. They kick him in the head. They throw him down the stairs. The impact is so severe it requires reconstructive surgery decades later to fix his breathing. He is pummeled until his face is unrecognizable. A swollen, bloody mess. But here is the twist. The physical beating, as horrific as it was the easy part. Bones heal. Swelling goes down. The hospital is a sanctuary of silence. The true horror began when he was discharged, when he had to go home. Enter Elon Musk, the father, the engineer, the shadow. If Elon is a tragedy, Errol is the curse. When Elon returned home, bandaged and broken, he wasn't comforted. He was forced to stand in front of his father for hours while Errol berated him. Errol called him an idiot. He told him he was worthless. He sided with the bullies. Elon has described his father as a man capable of evil. Not just bad parenting evil. He said, almost every evil thing you could possibly think of, he has done. Think about the architecture of that trauma. The one place that should be safe, your home, is actually a psychological war zone. Errol was brilliant. Yes. He was an electromechanical engineer who taught Elon the basics of how things work. But he was also a master of psychological torture. He taught Elon that the world is hostile, that people will betray you, and that the only way to survive is to be smarter, faster, and more ruthless than the person standing next to you. Elon learned to associate love with performance, and he learned to associate authority with capriciousness. So, what does a brilliant, terrified boy do when the outside world is violent and the inside world is poisonous? He retreats. He escapes into a world where he is God. The year is 1984. The boy is 12 years old. While other kids are playing rugby or learning to fight, Elon is sitting in a dark room, his face illuminated by the pale, flickering blue light of a Commodore VIC-20. He is writing code. He is building a video game called Blastar. In this digital void, there is no ambiguity. There is no unpredictable father. There are no bullies waiting at the bottom of the stairs. In code, if you make a mistake, the program crashes. You find the bug. You fix it. It works. It is fair. It is logical. It is a controlled environment. This is the birth of the first principles mindset. Now, usually, when business gurus talk about first principles, they talk about it as a strategy for innovation. Boil things down to their fundamental truths and reason up from there. It's how you build a cheaper rocket. It's how you redesign an electric car battery. But before it was a business strategy, it was a defense mechanism. For young Elon, emotions were dangerous variables. They hurt. They lied. They were chaotic. Physics, however, never lied. The laws of thermodynamics don't care about your feelings. They are the only things in the universe you can actually trust. So, he began to strip away the messy, human layer of reality. He trained his brain to bypass emotion and plug directly into logic. This is a superpower, undoubtedly. It allows him to see solutions that others miss because they are too bogged down by convention or fear. But it came at a terrible cost. When you train yourself to view the world as a series of engineering problems to be solved, you eventually start viewing people as engineering problems to be solved. You detach. You dissociate. You become the pilot of your own mind, observing humanity from a great distance, like an alien looking down at an anthill. This brings us to our first core lesson: trauma-driven success. We look at billionaires and assume they are driven by greed, or legacy, or a desire for comfort. But for Elon, comfort is the enemy. He works 120 hours a week, not because he needs the money, but because if he stops working, the silence returns. And in that silence, he can hear his father's voice. He pushes himself to the brink of insanity because deep down, there is still that 2-year-old boy trying to prove that he isn't worthless, that he isn't an idiot, that he can conquer the world that tried to crush him. It is a fuel source that burns hotter than rocket fuel. It is infinite, but it is also dirty. It pollutes everything it touches. By the time he leaves South Africa at age 17, clutching a one-way ticket to Canada, escaping the military draft and his father's shadow, he thinks he is free. He thinks he has left the abuse behind in Pretoria. But he is wrong. He carried the abuse with him. He internalized the aggressor. The boy who was bullied was slowly learning how to become the bully. The victim who hated the tyrant was quietly, subconsciously, drafting the blueprints to become a tyrant himself. He left the continent, but he kept the scars, and soon the whole world would feel the weight of them. SpaceX has failed 3 launches. Tesla is bleeding cash. Elon Musk is divorced, broke, and borrowing money just to pay rent. The press has already written his obituary. They call him a fraud, a dilettante, a rich kid playing with toys. But then, something snaps. Christmas Eve, 2008. NASA calls. A contract, a lifeline, and suddenly, the machine roars to life. Between 2008 and 2018, we witness the greatest second act in the history of capitalism. The Model S doesn't just work. It breaks the rating scale of Consumer Reports. It forces the entire 100-year-old automotive industry to admit they were wrong. The Falcon 9 doesn't just fly. It comes back. It pierces the clouds and lands upright on a drone ship in the middle of the Atlantic. It is an image so impossible it looks like CGI. The world applauds. They see the rockets. They see the sleek electric cars. They see the real-life Iron Man. But they don't see the blood on the floor. Because, to achieve the impossible, Elon Musk didn't just innovate. He radicalized. Welcome to the era of production hell. This is where the trauma of the boy from Pretoria metastasizes into the management style of the CEO. In Silicon Valley, companies talk about work-life balance. They offer nap pods and free kombucha. Elon Musk offers pain. He creates a culture of hardcore. Imagine receiving an email at 3 a.m. It's not a question. It's a directive. By 7 a.m., if it's not done, you don't have a job. There are stories from the Tesla factory floor that sound less like a car company and more like a totalitarian regime. Engineers describe walking down a hallway, seeing Elon approaching, and ducking into a bathroom to hide. Why? Because if he catches your eye, he might ask you a question about a specific part. If you hesitate, if you stumble, if you don't know the physics of that bolt down to the atomic level, you are fired. I don't have time for stupidity, he says. He calls these rage firings. One famous incident. He walks past an assembly line. He sees something he doesn't like. He explodes. He fires the manager on the spot. He promotes a junior engineer standing nearby to run the entire section. Is it efficient? Maybe. Is it humane? Absolutely not. But here is the chilling part. Elon doesn't ask his employees to do anything he isn't doing himself. During the Model 3 ramp-up in 2018, the company is weeks away from death. Again, Elon doesn't go home to his mansion. He sleeps on the factory floor, under a desk, on a conference room couch that smells of stale coffee and sweat. He wears the same clothes for days. He stops showering. He is manic, fueled by Diet Coke and cortisol. He wants his employees to see him suffering. He weaponizes his own martyrdom. I am in the trenches, he signals. Why aren't you bleeding with me? This creates a cult-like devotion, but it also creates a slaughterhouse for mental health. Now, we have to ask the difficult question, why? Why does he treat people like disposable batteries? Use them up until they are drained, then toss them aside for a fresh pack. Many compare him to Steve Jobs. Jobs was famous for his reality distortion field. He was cruel. He parked in handicapped spots. He made designers cry. But there is a critical difference. Steve Jobs was an artist. He wanted perfection. He screamed because the shade of blue wasn't right. Elon Musk is not an artist. He is a warlord. His cruelty isn't about aesthetics. It's about survival. In Elon's mind, empathy is a bug. It is a glitch in the source code. Think about it through the lens of first principles. Goal: get humanity to Mars to prevent extinction. Variable: a tired engineer who wants to go home to see their kids. Calculation: if letting the engineer go home delays Mars by 1 day, and that 1 day risks the species, then the engineer's feelings are irrelevant. The engineer is essentially a traitor to the future. This is the dark side of utilitarianism. When you claim to love humanity in the abstract, the billions of unborn people who will live on other planets, it becomes very easy to despise the actual humans standing in front of you. To Elon, an individual person is just a collection of atoms that can be replaced. But the mission is sacred. He views the Tesla factory not as a place where people work, but as the machine that builds the machine. And in a machine, there are no feelings. There is only friction, and friction must be eliminated. By 2018, he has succeeded. Tesla survives. The rockets are landing. He is the wealthiest man in history. But the demon mode, as his biographer Walter Isaacson calls it, doesn't turn off. You cannot run your brain at 0 revolutions per minute for a decade without stripping the gears. The success validates the pathology. The world rewards the bully. The stock market cheers for the tyrant. And so, the tyrant grows. He begins to believe that his instincts are infallible. He begins to believe that he can govern anything: politics, war, social media, with the same brute force he used to bend steel. He is standing on the summit of the world, but the air up there is thin, and the hallucinations are starting to set in. He has conquered the physical world. He has mastered gravity and energy, but he is about to enter a battlefield where physics doesn't apply. A place where hardcore engineering cannot fix the problem. He is about to buy a bluebird, and he is about to fly it straight into the sun. For years, the noise surrounding Elon Musk was the roar of engines. It was the sound of breaking barriers. But in 2022, the engines stopped, and a different sound took over. Static. Pure, chaotic static. The purchase of Twitter was not a business transaction. It was a hostile takeover of the global consciousness. And it marked the moment the mask didn't just slip, it shattered. Why does a man who is building rockets to Mars obsess over blue check marks? Why does the architect of the future get into flame wars with unknown accounts named Catered 2? The answer lies in the narcissist's trap. When you are surrounded by engineers who treat your word as law, you begin to lose your grip on reality. You start to think that social engineering is just like mechanical engineering. You think you can fix free speech, the same way you fix a battery pack, by optimizing the code. But people are not batteries, and discourse is not code. He walked into Twitter HQ with a sink, a smile, and a sledgehammer. What followed was a purge born of paranoia. Imagine the scene. A $44 billion company, hollowed out in a week. He fired 80% of the staff. Not just the bloat. He fired the janitors, the security, the safety teams, the very people keeping the lights on. He sat in that glass tower in San Francisco, isolated, surrounded only by a shrinking circle of sycophants who were too terrified to say no. If an engineer showed him a drop in engagement, he didn't ask, "Is the content bad?" He asked, "Is the algorithm against me?" He commanded them to rewrite the code to boost his own tweets. He forced the entire platform to amplify his voice above all others. This is not the behavior of a CEO. This is the behavior of a lonely king shouting from the balcony, demanding the peasants cheer louder. History has seen this trajectory before. We look at Howard Hughes, the aviator, the visionary, the richest man of his era. Hughes pushed boundaries in aviation and film. He was an American hero. But as he aged, the genius curdled into madness. He locked himself in screening rooms, naked, terrified of germs, saving his own urine in jars, giving orders to an empire he no longer saw. Elon Musk isn't locking himself in a screening room. He is locking himself in an echo chamber. He isn't afraid of germs. He is afraid of the woke mind virus. This is his Moby Dick. He believes that a woke cultural contagion turned his transgender daughter against him. He believes it is destroying civilization. So, instead of reflecting on his role as a father, he declared war on a concept. He reinstated neo-Nazis and conspiracy theorists in the name of free speech, while banning journalists who tracked his private jet. He posted conspiracy theories about violent attacks on politicians. He mocked disabled employees publicly. The distortion field that Steve Jobs used to create great products, Elon is now using to create an alternate reality. And here lies the tragedy. The world needed Elon Musk, the engineer. We needed the man who could decarbonize the grid. We needed the man who could make us a multi-planetary species. But the engineer has been consumed by the influencer. The dopamine hit of a viral tweet has become more addictive than the success of a rocket launch. He is trading his legacy for likes. This brings us to the second hard lesson. When ego outweighs the mission, the hero becomes the villain. The dark triad traits, narcissism, psychopathy, Machiavellianism, that helped him build the empire, are now actively destroying it. Narcissism demands constant attention, even if it's negative. Psychopathy allows him to fire thousands without blinking, destroying livelihoods on a whim. Machiavellianism justifies the lies, the broken promises of full self-driving next year, the pump and dump of cryptocurrencies. He is no longer playing 4D chess. He is flipping the board because he's losing the game. He stands in the wreckage of Twitter Now X, a brand he destroyed in months. The advertisers have fled. The users are leaving. The value has plummeted. But he doesn't see a burning building. He sees a bonfire that he built. And he is dancing around it, phone in hand, waiting for the world to tell him he's funny. The descent is complete. The visionary is gone. The troll remains. But as the smoke clears, a new question emerges. If he can break a social media platform this easily, what happens when he holds the keys to something much more dangerous? What happens when the man who cannot control his own impulses is the only one controlling the gateway to the stars? Leave the bluebird in its cage. Forget the flame wars. Forget the stock prices. Let's look at the horizon. Because while Elon Musk plays the jester on Earth, he is playing God in the laboratory. Beyond the noise, two colossal projects are quietly marching forward. One aims to take us to the stars. The other aims to get inside our skulls. SpaceX and Neuralink. Let's talk about the brain first. Neuralink. The goal sounds noble. Cure paralysis. Solve blindness. But listen to Elon's own words. The ultimate goal is not medical. It is existential. He fears artificial intelligence. He believes that biological humans, with our slow thumbs and limited bandwidth, will eventually be treated by AI the same way we treat house pets. His solution: if you can't beat them, join them. He wants to weave a digital layer onto the human cortex. He wants to merge man and machine. This is the dream of the transhumanist: to shed the weakness of flesh, to upload the soul. But coming from a man who demands absolute control, who views empathy as a bug, do we really want him holding the keys to our neural pathways? Imagine a mind that operates on the same hardcore culture as Twitter, but inside your own head. No privacy. No off switch. Just optimization. He doesn't just want to save humanity. He wants to upgrade us. He wants to turn us into cyborgs. Because in his eyes, human V1, 0 is obsolete. And if the upgrade fails, there is Plan B, Mars. For 2 decades, this has been the North Star, the red planet. While other billionaires buy yachts or islands, Elon buys methane and steel. He is building the Starship, the largest flying object ever made by human hands. He sells us a vision of a shining city under a glass dome, a backup drive for civilization. But let's strip away the CGI marketing. Mars is not a sanctuary. Mars is a hellscape. It is a radioactive, freezing, airless desert. To live there is to live in a tin can, recycling your own urine, dependent on machines for every breath you take. And who controls the machines? He does. In a colony on Mars, there is no constitution. There is no Bill of Rights. There are only the terms of service. Elon Musk has already hinted that future Martian laws might not follow Earth's laws. he will be the CEO of a planet. This brings us to the Mars paradox. And this is the most critical contradiction in Elon's psyche. He claims to be a utilitarian. He subscribes to a philosophy known as long-termism. The idea is that the future trillions of humans who might exist in the colonies of the galaxy are more important than the 8 billion humans alive today. If you believe that, then any sacrifice is justified. You can treat your workers like dirt. You can destabilize democracy. You can ignore the suffering right in front of your face. Why? Because you are saving the species. He loves humanity, the abstract concept, the data set, the future potential, but he seems to have no patience for humans, the messy, emotional, fragile individuals who actually inhabit the Earth. He wants to save the software, but he doesn't seem to care about the hardware. It is a messianic complex. He believes he is the only one who can carry the fire. I am the only one, he has said. And perhaps, in a terrifying way, he is right. NASA stopped dreaming decades ago. Governments are paralyzed by bureaucracy. Elon is the only one crazy enough to actually build the rocket. He is the only one willing to burn his entire fortune to put a flag on a dead world. Picture the scene. Boca Chica, Texas. The launch pad. The starship stands 400 feet tall. A monolith of stainless steel, glistening in the sun. It is beautiful. It is phallic. It is terrifying. The countdown begins. 3, 2, 1. Ignition. 33 Raptor engines scream with the force of 1,000,000 horsepower. The ground shakes. The sky tears open. The beast rises. It leaves the atmosphere. It drifts into the black void. Inside that ship, carrying the seeds of a new civilization, is the legacy of Elon Musk. Is it an ark? Or is it a coffin? We are now approaching the end of the story, but the ink is not dry. 100 years from now, history books will be written. How will they remember him? Will they remember him as Neil Armstrong? The explorer, the pioneer, the man who dragged a reluctant species out of the mud and gave them the galaxy. Will the children of Mars look at his statue in the town square and see a father? Or will they remember him as Icarus? The man who was given the gift of flight but became intoxicated by his own height. The man who flew too close to the sun, not because he had to, but because he thought the laws of physics didn't apply to him. The man who burned his wings and fell into the sea, leaving behind nothing but smoke and cautionary tales. This leads us to our final lesson, the price of evolution. Progress is not free. It is bought with obsession. It is paid for insanity. Nature requires diversity. It requires the kind, the slow, the poetic, but it also requires the monsters. The ones who are willing to break things, the ones who are willing to be hated. Elon Musk is not a hero, and he is not a villain. He is a force of nature, like a hurricane. You don't ask a hurricane if it is good or bad. You just acknowledge its power, and you try to survive it. He has opened the door to the future, but he has also shown us the darkness in the heart of the man holding the handle. The rockets are waiting. The brain chips are ready. The future is coming, whether we like it or not, and it looks a lot like him. So, here we are. At the end of the line, we have peeled back the layers of the most scrutinized man on the planet. We have seen the boy broken on the concrete stairs. We have seen the tyrant sleeping on the factory floor. We have seen the clown dancing in the ashes of a social network. And now, the jury must deliver a verdict, not on his wealth, not on his politics, but on his soul. We live in a world that craves binary answers. We want heroes to be saints, and we want villains to be monsters. We want Elon Musk to be Tony Stark, or we want him to be Lex Luthor. But the terrifying truth is that he is both. This is the fundamental law of extreme outliers. Balance is the enemy of greatness. We want the reusable rockets. We want the electric revolution. We want the satellite internet that connects the unreached. But we don't want the chaos. We don't want the midnight rage. We don't want the cruelty. We want the art without the madness. But nature doesn't work that way. It is a package deal. The same psychological engine that allows a man to believe he can colonize Mars is the exact same engine that makes him incapable of feeling satisfied with a normal life. The delusion required to ignore the odds is the same delusion that ignores social norms. You cannot have the light without the heat, and Elon Musk is burning very, very hot. He is a tragic figure in the classical Greek sense. He has everything a human being could possibly want: money, fame, power, genius. And yet, if you look closely at his face during interviews, you don't see joy. You see a man who is being hunted by his own mind. He is running a race against a finish line that doesn't exist. And this is the warning for you. For us, we look at him and we feel envy. We see the billions. We see the history books waiting to be written. We think, I want to be like that. Do you? Do you really? Be careful what you worship. Greatness is a Faustian bargain. It demands a sacrificial offering. And usually, that offering is your peace. It is your family. It is your sanity. To change the world, you often have to break yourself. Elon Musk has broken himself 1,000 times over to build the future. He has sacrificed his humanity to become an icon of progress. He is the architect of tomorrow, but he is a prisoner of today. Music swells to a deafening, triumphant crescendo, orchestral, choral, overwhelming. So, when the starships finally lift off, carrying the hopes of our species into the dark, remember who built them. Remember that they were forged in trauma, welded by obsession, and fueled by a desperate need to be enough. He may get us to Mars. He may save the light of consciousness. but he will likely die alone in a glass tower, surrounded by the cold vacuum of his own making. He is the Icarus who survived the fall. And now, he has nowhere left to go but up into the endless, empty black. Was it worth it?